Hello everybody, welcome back to Simulated Heaven. Now I thought I would do a very quick fire video just to talk about Football Manager 2014. Now Football Manager is a game that I've been playing since I was at university. I've been playing it a long time. To be honest, my younger years at university and just after, I played it a lot, really a lot. We're talking probably hundreds of hours. However, I would say since I would say in maybe the last, say, 10 years approximately, I haven't really gotten into the more recent ones that much, but for some reason this 2014 version has really sunk its hooks in me at the moment. Which is good because there's actually a new version that's coming out, the 2015 version. But anyway, I am the manager of Gillingham, and Gillingham is a place in Kent, and Gillingham are basically a League One team. So you have the Premiership in England, then you have the Championship, and then you have League One. So they're not, they're quite far off the Premier teams in England, but they're not that, they're not really at the bottom. So it's quite interesting. I mean, I kind of enjoy playing this game in a way where it's a challenge, where it's not easy, because actually recently, I would say the past at least few years, Gillingham have not been doing particularly well. They finish in League One, usually kind of mid-table or even slightly under mid-table. So it's always a challenge to take a team like that and try to transform them. Now, I'm going to kind of start this video by explaining usually what I will do when I start a new game of Football Manager. So usually, what I will do, the first thing I will do is I will go to the staff and I'll have a look at the staff that I have. Now the first thing I do is I fire my scouts, because to be honest, certainly in the first few years I would rather actually save a bit of money. I know it's not a lot of money, but I'd rather just save a bit of money on that, and then I can obviously search around for players myself. And then the other thing I do is I look at my assistant, I look at the head of youth, I usually look at the coaches, the important staff that I employ. I kind of start with those ones and I have a look and I see, am I happy with their level, and is there anyone that I can find that is slightly better. Now I found this guy because the guy that I had as the assistant manager at the time was not particularly great, so I found this guy, Steve Kember. Now I like to find staff that are pretty good at working with younger players, so I thought that he's very good because he's got pretty good ability at judging player ability and also the player potential. 15 and 15, right? This is the main information here. He's also very good at management, very good at working with youngsters, not too bad at motivating, not too bad at tactical knowledge. So this guy, I think, for a club like Gillingham, is a very good assistant manager. And I think also one of the reasons why I like to look at my staff first is I'm usually quite lazy with the training and other things like that, so in the end I usually will leave a lot of that to my other staff, and I find that's why I have a look at these people fairly early on. And I actually found all of the people that I've employed here from the free market. You basically have to go here, search for staff, and I try to find people who are out of a job, who don't have a job, because obviously if you find a person who's in a job who's good, you usually have to pay them more, more money, or you might have to pay a fee to the club they work for at the moment. And usually I find you can usually, certainly at this level, I can usually find the people that I need who are unattached. So yeah, I found this guy, I really like him. Steve Kember seems to be doing a good job. I also found a new head of youth, and again found him on a free, and he also has some pretty good stats, working with youngsters 19, judging playability, judging player potential, all very good. Now, you know, there are obviously other things that are important, but personally I just really like to have people that can help me to find, to judge and find good young players, and can obviously nurture them a bit in the club. Okay, then the other one that I did, the coaches I had were not very good, so I found these two coaches again on freeze, which personally I think these two guys are really good as coaches, got pretty good stats. Yeah, and also it's pretty much the same for the other guy here, the other coach. And I believe actually I changed one of the physios. This guy is the other coach, as you can see, 4 stars, got some pretty good stats, so that's good. And also the physio, the regular physio, I changed, because again, like the one I had I wasn't happy with. This one, he's a 3.5 star, got some really good stats, which is good. Yeah, and I think in the future I'll start maybe looking at some of the other coaches. Certainly I think the under-18s physio, maybe the head physio, I might start to look at those later, but that's not really a major thing. And then usually after that I will change the staff responsibilities. You see, I'll basically set it up so that most of the training and finding young players are by either the head of youth or the assistant manager, and obviously I'll just do the basic kind of stuff as the manager, like actually looking at the first team and all that. Now, so that basically explains what I have done. Now, I also brought in some players. Now, what I usually do, let me just go to my squad. When I am playing a team like Gillingham, I usually try to find players which are on loan. I would say it's probably not the best thing because it's quite a short-term thing, but personally I find it works quite well, where I like to basically I'll have a look at the big clubs, sometimes in the Premiership, mostly in the Championship. So, for example, if I go to Sky Bet League One and then I choose like the Premiership, for example, I will choose a big team, maybe Man United. I'll go to their under-21 squad. I mean, it's a bit late now, but because like a lot of their players are already loaned out. But you'll just have a look, see if there's a player that they will loan out, because as you can see, even the young players at these the Premiership clubs are often, you know, really good, got really good abilities. So, but as you can see here from the transfer info, this guy, they don't want to loan him. So it can be hard with the Premiership clubs, because they either don't want to loan him, or they will say that they would like him to play with better players, or the wages will be way too high. But yeah, so I kind of have a look around a few of these like Premiership clubs, and then I'll do a similar thing with the Championship clubs. So yeah, let's look at the squad again. So what I basically did is I would say actually that this time I didn't do like so much with the loans. I got this guy, Jerome Binom Williams, and I got him from Crystal Palace. Now he is a really good young player. He's a left back. The problem that I've been having is he I think it's going to take him a while, like, to really settle into the team. We're quite a ways into the league. It's like almost the end of October, so we have been going almost a couple of months now into the league. So this guy, I'm finding I'm having to play him like as a sub in the second half, or I can't really play him all the time. He hasn't been faring brilliantly, but I have this feeling that if I keep giving him more experience, I have this feeling this guy is going to be really, really good. Right, so I'm quite hoping that he'll be very good. I also have this guy, Courtney House. Now, he was already in my team. He'd already been loaned in real life, and I've actually been playing him as like the first team centre back, even though he's so young. But to be honest, he has been doing really well. There was a point here where he didn't do that well, but I had a bit of a talk to him, and yeah, he started to improve again. And I do really like the level of detail in this game, and I also kind of like the idea that you can actually give the training that to your assistant manager, that you don't have to do that if you don't really want to. Fair enough, you might not get a perfect result from that, but it is really good that you can do that if you want to. And I do really like some of the features, like where you can actually talk to players, you can warn them, you can praise them, you can talk about their contract, you can do loads of things, which I think is really cool. I mean, if you can remember years ago, like the Football Manager or Championship Manager games, they were, really basic in comparison. So yes, I have this guy, and I'm finding that he's really good. He's a really good young player, and even though I think a lot of people, they will play him as a left back, I've been finding him really good as a centre back. And I've got this other guy, John Egan, which he is quite, well, he's also quite young actually. So I have quite a young pairing of centre backs. Now, this is kind of somewhere where sometimes I feel the game is not completely realistic, and I think it's impossible for it to be 100% realistic, because I think in real life, if you had a couple of centre backs that were this young, especially in League One, they would probably get torn apart. Now, I did have this other guy, Leon Leg, and he's like a more experienced guy who's actually been at Gillingham in real life for quite a while, I think, for at least a few years. Unfortunately, I found he was not performing very well, and I tried to talk to him, and we had an argument, and he is now in the under-21 squad. This guy, Leon Leg, he's not very happy, let's put it that way. Yeah, but I did have another talk to him, and it says here that he knows that his performances must improve if he's going to get into the first team. I mean, first of all, you look at his attributes, they're not that good, they're alright, but I was actually playing him at the beginning of the season and finding that he wasn't doing very well, and even though he's 28 and he's quite experienced, I was just finding that he wasn't doing that well. I've just actually noticed what happened to Adam Barrett. Did he get loaned out in real life? Ah, yes, okay, because I've actually played this game as Gillingham quite a lot in the past, and I can remember that this guy was quite a prominent guy in the past, and he's obviously been loaned out, so that's why I can't use him, because I obviously updated the game with all of the latest transfers at the end of the transfer window. Okay, so then there was one other guy that I've got on loan, Frankie Sutherland. Again, he's a young player, and he's Irish, and I have a few other Irish players in the team, and he's on loan from QPR. He seemed like a good option because I don't have to pay that much of his wages. He's got really good stats, and I use him mostly as like a sub, so I don't usually play him all the time. Usually my midfield will be this guy, Dak, and Pritchard, these two guys. this is usually who I will play in my midfield. And Dak, he's also quite young, but he's got really, really good potential. And I find when I play him, he's been playing really well. You can see that his overall rating is 7.003. Sorry. So I've been finding he has played really well. And again, I think it's a little bit unrealistic having so many young players, but you know, in this game, and you know, you do find that it's not entirely realistic with the fact you can play so many young players and do well. This guy, I've been finding him really good. Pritchard, again, fairly young. He's got really good attributes. I find that when I have played him, he's played really well most of the time. So to be honest, I have Pritchard and Dak as my main two midfielders. Now, Lingazi is someone that usually plays well, but he's usually my holding midfielder, but he hasn't been playing that well this season. I'm kind of considering if I should maybe drop him. I already warned him about this, and I'm kind of thinking if he doesn't improve soon, I'm going to maybe put Pritchard into the defensive midfield position, and I might have to bring on one of my other midfielders. Maybe I can have Frankie in the team for a bit of a run. I don't know, but it's kind of weird because usually he's very good, this Lingazi, but for some reason at the moment not been doing too well. And he's actually one of the slightly more experienced players who usually I find he plays really well, but for some reason not that great. Okay, so like I said, I got House, Egan at the back, Hoyt. Now I don't usually play Hoyt. My right back is usually this guy, Matt Fish, who in real life I believe plays for the club. And I've been finding him to be really good. He's quite consistent. He's good at crossing. I seem to remember he's, you know, really good. So I usually have him as my right back. And then I've got this Gavin Hoyt as a backup. He's actually either a backup right or left back. I find when I play him, he plays alright, but he's not brilliant. Now, I think that's everything to explain about the defence. Oh, Joe Martin. So I was kind of explaining earlier that this guy, Binom Williams, is a bit inconsistent. So I have actually been playing Joe Martin as my regular left back. And he has been doing alright, Martin. But he's not been quite as good as I'd hoped. But, you know, he's doing alright. Pretty good. So usually I will have him as my first choice, and I will bring on this guy, Binom Williams, if it's a less important game, or I might have him as like a sub in the second half, especially if it's a game that we are winning or something like that, like to give him more experience. Yeah, so that's my defence basically. Oh, and the goalkeeper, I had a guy, Bywater, who in real life is at the club on loan. And to be honest, I didn't want to have him on loan because I feel that Stuart Nelson is more than good enough as the first choice, and I didn't want to have Bywater on loan. It kind of felt like he was a luxury that, you know, I wanted to save the money on his wages really. So I sent him back. So I have Nelson as my undisputed first choice, and to be honest, if he gets injured, we're not going to be looking too good because Glenn Morris is okay, not bad, but he's not brilliant. So I'm hoping that my first choice doesn't get injured. Okay, so I've talked about the defence, the midfield pretty much. Now, it's quite interesting. I bought this guy here, Hall, on a free. I bought him on a free. He's played it in the past for Leeds, Southend. His attributes look really good. And also at the time I found out I didn't have a lot of players who were good at free kicks, and not too many who were good at corners, and I found out he's really good at doing free kicks, or fairly good at free kicks and at corners, and he seemed like he would fit into the team really well. And also he will play the midfield either as a left or a right winger, and well, I can actually play him almost anywhere in the midfield. So he's a really good utility player, and I signed him with the hope that he would do very well. And he's actually done, yeah, he has done really well. His overall rating is over 7. I find that he has played pretty much every game, and he is usually really good at providing the crosses and the free kicks and things like that. One thing I don't like about him is he seems to try way too many long shots, and he doesn't score that many, and he seems to have quite a lot of long shots, which sometimes is a little bit annoying, but I'm willing to accept that because he seems overall a really good player in my team. And the wages are high for Gillingham, but they're not too bad. Like, yeah, I've had others that I've signed on a free that have got crazy, you know, that in the past I've done that and they get really crazy wages, like really high wages, but I didn't want to go there on this playthrough, so I kind of like the fact that he's a good player for us, but his wages are not too crazy, and I got him on a free. So Ryan Hall, he's a bit of a star of the team, I would say, and he's a little bit older, which is good. Okay, Dickinson. Actually, I don't usually play him all the time. He's quite a young, up and coming player. I don't play him a lot, as you can see from his statistics. I usually just bring him on as a sub occasionally. I usually will play this guy, Jermaine McClashen, as my regular right winger, and he started off the season for about a month not doing too well, and actually the fans were getting annoyed with him. But I persevered, and he's been doing amazing after that. I did have a bit of a chat to him, and yeah, even though his attributes don't look too great, he has been doing so well. He's actually scored 4 goals, 3 in competitive, and you can see his overall rating is 7.16. So he's been doing really well. I only ever play him as a right winger, and he seems to be really good for us. So that's great. Now, I do have this other guy, Antonio Germain. He's usually fairly good, but he's been injured. But I usually bring him on if I need a replacement for McGlashan. Sometimes I'll put Dickinson in there as well. Yeah, so I have a few options in that position. Now, the final position is the position of striker. Now, it's quite interesting. Actually, he doesn't usually play. It's just that I think I recently played, the last game was the a cup game, the Johnston's Paint Cup or whatever it's called, which I don't think is mega important, so I usually play some of the other players that don't usually play, especially if I am playing a team that we should easily beat. Now, what I've been doing recently is I bought this guy, John Parkin, again on a free, and again he isn't on crazy high wages. It's a little bit high for a club like Gillingham, but it's not crazy high. He's 31, and if you look at his attributes, you can see that he ought to be a really good player. I would say that he hasn't been quite as good as I'd hoped, but he has scored 3 goals, and what I have been doing is I've been playing him in the first half, kind of hoping he's going to really kick on, and then in the second half I've been bringing on Kedwell, who is a really good player. As you can see, he's scored 7 goals, and actually pretty much every time I bring on Kedwell, he seems to be doing really well at the moment. So to be honest, I'm thinking of what I might do is put on Kedwell as my first choice from the, you know, in the first half, and only bring on Parkin if Kedwell is slightly tired or obviously injured or whatever. Apart from these two, they're my 2 main strikers. Antonio Germain, he can play there, but I wouldn't really play him on his own really. I would only ever play him if there were two up front, and he would be like a foil for the striker. The same goes for Dickinson. I don't usually play him as an out and out striker on his own. So then I would put on Cody. So he's basically my third choice. He is actually pretty decent, but he hasn't had that many opportunities because, like I said, I've mainly been using Kedwell and Parkin. But it's kind of nice having McDonald there in case I need him. Luke Norris is very he's quite young. He's alright actually, but he's way too far down in the pecking order. I occasionally will play him, but not very often. I tried loaning him out, but nobody wanted him. So yes, I basically explained the team that I have built here, and then if we do look where we are, we have actually done alright, and I'm quite surprised at how well we're doing. We're up in third place, and to be honest, more recently we have beaten some of the teams. I think the only team that have beat us recently that are near us are Bradford. I believe they beat us, but we have been beating some of the teams up here, or at least drawing or beating them more than I would have thought, actually, to be honest. I kind of expected it would be quite a lot harder than it has been. But we're still early on in the season, and one of the problems you have to be careful with this game is not to get too excited, because although we are third, it's only October, and it's that kind of game that likes to throw, or I get the feeling it likes to throw injuries at you. You know, this might just be in my opinion, it might not be true, but I sometimes feel that this game will all of a sudden throw loads of injuries at you or do various things, and yeah, it's not always going to be easy. Especially, I mean, if you think that a club like Gillingham usually wouldn't, you know, be expected up here. I think about 5, 6 or 7 years ago actually they got promoted up in the Championship and were doing really well, but more recently you wouldn't expect they would be up there. So we're doing really well actually with the team that I have made. I'm not getting too excited. If we get injuries, it's a team that could very, very quickly start losing, so we need to be very careful. And my idea is, obviously I've got a backroom staff that I'm hoping will be able to help me to nurture some younger players, and I'm just hoping to gradually build up. I don't expect realistically that I'm going to get promoted this season. I'm kind of hoping that I can gradually build up. I mean, as you can see, I've got a very, very young team. A lot of the players are young, so I'm kind of hoping they will all start to grow up into a team, because that's always an issue. If you have a team that's full of older players, or if you use too many older players, even if you get promoted, you usually find a lot of those players are not really good enough for the next league up. You've kind of bought them and they're very good at that league, but when you go up, they're very often not good enough. So then what happens? You have all these aging players, you can't really sell them easily, and they're not really good enough for that league, and you end up having to go through and buy other players. But you know, I always find it's a better option if you go with a younger team that hopefully will grow into it if you get promoted. Anyway guys, this video has been a lot longer than I expected, but I'm not going to do loads of videos on this game. I'll probably just do like progress reports on this save game. I might show you like a game or two on the highlights, because actually I'm really impressed with how the highlights are, like the match 3D highlights are in this game, and I'm sure in the 2015 version that they'll get even better. Anyway, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.